When we first start out manifesting, often it seems like everything is fun and easy and we are filled with excitement and hope and motivation and possibility for all of the amazing things that we are about to manifest. But after a couple of weeks or months of positive focus, we might start noticing setbacks or challenges coming up. And after a while, those doubts start creeping in and we begin to think to ourselves, what is going on here? Is manifestation even real? Am I actually even able to influence my reality at all? If you feel like you could relate to this and you feel like you are hitting a wall or you're getting stuck when you're manifesting and you're facing the same challenges and the same repeating patterns popping up over and over again, then stick around to the end of this video because I'm going to share with you why this happens and some of the insights and tools that I have used to navigate these situations and keep me from falling further and further into that dark spiral of stuckness and hopelessness. So maybe right now you are on your manifestation journey facing a setback that you have faced years before and it's coming up again and you are so confused why this is back. Or maybe you are facing the same limiting beliefs or the same mental patterns over and over again and it seems like no matter what you do, these same mental patterns, these same limiting beliefs keep popping up and sabotaging your manifestation mindset. It's easy to lose hope and get frustrated in these situations, but let me explain to you why this is happening. So the first thing here that may give you a little bit of hope when you find yourself in this situation is the concept of the spiral. So I originally learned this concept probably about 10 years ago now from Teal Swan, and essentially this spiral here represents consciousness expanding. And as you can see in the spiral, consciousness expands upward and outward in these kind of circular fashion motions. So this could represent a vibration or a frequency that you are expanding through your lifetime, that you are expanding through your consciousness. So for example, it could be something like self-love. So when you start out on your consciousness expanding journey or your manifestation journey, because it's all an expansion of consciousness, right? When you start out on that journey, when you hit this first point of your self-love vibration here, you're going to notice a challenge and it's going to cause you to rethink self-love. You might have to do some inner work. It might change what your desires are. It might change the direction of your life. So this could be something like a relationship ends and you go through a grieving period and you realize that this person was not the best person for you. They weren't treating you right. And so you decide to treat yourself better. And so you discover more layers of self-love. And so your vibration, your consciousness understanding of self-love grows through this experience, right? So then you would continue up the spiral here. And then again here, you would hit another rung on the spiral. This would be another rung of a greater expansion of self-love. So again, in this situation, you would encounter another situation that would put your focus and your attention back on self-love. So this could be maybe a different type of challenging situation. Maybe this time it's a job that's not treating you the way that you're meant to be treated, but it reminds you of that same feeling that the relationship back here made you feel. And so you're expanding up, things are getting better, and then you hit another point like this where you are faced with a similar pattern or you're faced with a similar challenge so that you can expand your vibration again relative to this one subject. And so you would continue as you went on, expanding your consciousness, things are getting better and better and better, right? So every time you learn from these different rungs on the ladder here of consciousness, your consciousness is expanding up and out. And so you're becoming more conscious, more aware, your vibration is rising, and you are starting to notice that you are encountering better and better situations. But you're always still facing another layer of even higher consciousness because there's no limit to how far consciousness can expand that we know of, right? So you're always able to become more conscious, become more aware, reach greater levels of something that you want. So with each rung that you're hitting, you're reaching greater levels of self-love after you overcome this challenge. So as you go up here, you're going to manifest better situations, better relationships, better people into your life, and it's going to be in layers as you work through each of these challenges or these patterns. If you are somebody who has experienced a similar pattern that keeps coming up and you thought you were done with it and now it's coming up again and you're so frustrated, it is likely that you are on this spiral and you're at that point where you're once again facing that similar pattern or that similar challenge so that you can expand your awareness, your consciousness around that subject. So when you're in these situations, it often looks like you've gone backwards, right? You think, okay, I went totally backwards. I thought I was finally over this and now I'm back at square one. But hopefully this spiral will give you some hope that you are not at square one. You have not gone backwards. You are going up and out and expanding in consciousness and expanding and being able to manifest greater and greater levels of the things that you want all the time. So it is always getting better. You never go backwards, and you're always just experiencing another layer of awareness and consciousness relative to this subject matter that you are expanding throughout your life. When I finally understood this spiral concept, it helped me break free of that fear that I have gone backwards, and it helped me realize that I'm never going backwards. I'm always expanding upward and outwards, that my consciousness is always expanding. And it's the same for you too. Every time we face these similar challenges and it feels like we have gone backwards, we have not. We've just reached another layer of the spiral. And as soon as we are able to overcome this challenge, we will open ourselves up to a new level of possibility regarding that desire that we want to manifest. So just because something negative is coming up in your 3D experience, once again, a similar pattern, a similar situation, or that limiting belief just won't seem to go away, I want you to know that this does not mean that you have gone backwards, and this does not mean that all of your work is pointless and down the drain. It is absolutely the opposite. You are moving forward, you are expanding upward and outward, and it means that you are ready to level up even more on your manifestation journey, and that you are ready to manifest and experience an even greater level of satisfaction relative to this manifestation or this subject in your life due to the awareness that you will gain through the contrast of the challenge. If you're at the point where you are like, I don't feel like I'm the operant power, I don't feel like anything that I'm doing is making any types of changes in my external world, and I actually feel hopeless and like giving up completely because I feel like nothing I do works. Here's what I want you to do in those situations. I want you to take the focus off of changing the external world, off of manifesting anything in the 3D world, and put the focus on yourself, your internal state, and focus on changing yourself. Manifestations come from our internal state anyways, right? We've all heard this before. So at this point, it's best to just totally stop trying to manifest anything in the 3D world and instead just focus on changing your own internal state and focus on taking back the power and control that you have over your own perspective and how you feel and your own internal state. So take all of your focus and attention off of the 3D world, off of everything that's going on around you, and instead put all of that focus and attention back on yourself. Put yourself on the pedestal right now. Put all of your attention on yourself and what you can do to make yourself feel better and what you can do to shift your internal state into one that you desire to experience. So just drop the desires completely and bring the focus and attention back to you. When we are manifesting, ultimately what we are doing is shifting our ego. We are shifting our identity because our entire world is projecting out from our subconscious mind, right? It is projecting out from our self-concept, our identity, and our ego, and it is creating an entire timeline, an entire world based on this self-concept, based on our perception. So we need to understand that all we are doing right now is shifting our identity and shifting our self-concept because that's all that we need to do. And in order to do this, a great technique that you can use is to step outside your ego or step outside your identity or your self-concept for a little bit of time. And this is why techniques like the I Am meditation by Neville Goddard, or getting into the void state, doing mantra meditation, all of these meditation focused techniques are great for helping you to disidentify temporarily from your self-concept and your ego so that you can look at it objectively and you can begin to consciously decide how you want to shift it, how you want to change it. So I would recommend that you focus completely at this point on shifting your self-concept, shifting your identity by doing these meditation techniques like going into the void state, doing the I Am meditation so that you can disidentify from this ego that you are currently embodying, this identity that you are currently embodying, and you can start to become aware of how this current self-concept that you are holding sits relative to the self-concept of you that has what you want, the self-concept of you that you want to embody. So you want to focus on adding these practices into your life. And then when you go out throughout your day and you're experiencing the world, I want you to just focus on observing yourself. So you want to observe what type of thoughts you're thinking, what type of beliefs are popping up over and over again, what kind of internal conversations you're having in your mind with the people in your life. Basically, you just want to drop trying to change anything for a little bit here and get really clear on what's actually going on with your self-concept, who you actually are, and what you're actually focusing on and manifesting. And then once you have done a good amount of observing, you can now take conscious action to shift some of these thought patterns in the moment when they are happening. Even though in that moment when you are having that negative conversation with that person that you don't like in your head, and it's so tempting to just continue to finish that conversation, I want you to have the willpower to stop that conversation in the middle and say, okay, This is from my old self-concept. This is from the old identity that I want to shift. The old man, as Neville Goddard would say. This is no longer who I am wanting to be. This is no longer the set point that I'm wanting to manifest from. I'm instead going to shift my thoughts and shift my focus over to a dialogue, a conversation that I would prefer, or over to thinking about something else that I prefer to manifest more of in my life. So you are literally just going about your day, focusing on yourself, how you are feeling, and consciously choosing to shift your internal state into one that more closely matches the desire or the self-concept that you want to embody. So once you start noticing these patterns, you can begin to come up with a clear blueprint, a clear idea of the self-concept or the person that you want to become, the person that would be having your desire or living the life that you want to live. You would be able to see how they would be thinking relative to how you are thinking. You are able to compare the thoughts that you're having in your day-to-day life versus how they would be thinking in their day-to-day life. And then you are able to now consciously shift your thoughts on a moment-to-moment basis to line up with this self-concept until this self-concept becomes natural and normal to you. And so it's definitely a practice. Changing your thoughts, being aware of your thoughts is such a high-level practice. So do not be frustrated if this is difficult at first. Just continue to allow yourself to slowly shift thoughts and internal states as much as possible until you feel like you're able to shift your internal state in the same way that you're able to shift into a new outfit or shift into a new type of hairstyle. So you are no longer at this point focused on manifesting anything out there in the physical world or any physical desire. You are only going to be focused on manifesting the internal state that you desire, the self-concept that you desire. So if you are feeling like you are losing faith in your manifestation abilities, or you don't feel like you actually are the operant power of your life, and you start to feel like you don't actually have this influence to change or affect your external reality. If you are feeling any of these ways, this can be a helpful mindset shift to break you out of that stuck pattern. Take your perception that being the operant power means that you are controlling the external world completely off the table for a little bit, and consider that maybe being the operant power means that you have control, you have power over your own internal state. Maybe it's about having control or power over your internal world. Maybe it's about having power over your perspective on what you are seeing, being able to change and shift your perspective at will. Maybe it's about having the power to change or shift your internal state in any second and not allowing anything around you in the 3D world to affect your internal state outside of you. So at this point, a great way to confidently take back your power is to say, I'm not going to let anything outside of me in the 3D world affect my internal state anymore. I am going to be the operant power of my internal state and my perspective, and I'm going to master the art of shifting through different internal states, different states of consciousness internally, to the point where I am now confident in my abilities to shift myself easily from one internal state to another internal state without any reliance on what is happening around me externally in the 3D world. And so from there, you really take back your power as the operant power, because you're able to do whatever you want. You're able to feel however you want. You're able to experience whatever you want without needing the 3D world to necessarily do something to allow you to have it. You can experience that feeling. You can experience that perspective now. Even when it comes to things like revision and changing the past, it's easy to get caught up in this powerlessness of, well, the past is so much bigger than me. I can't change the past, actually. How am I going to do that? It's so set in stone. It's so final. If you took your mindset away from trying to, again, change something that appears to be outside of you, the past, and said, you know what? Maybe I don't believe that I can actually change the past, but I can change my memories of the past. I can change my internal state, the thoughts, the imagination, the visions that I'm having relative to the past. I can change those in my mind. And then once you start to do this and you change your internal state, you'll begin to notice that everything in terms of past, present, and future is reflecting out from the now point, the point of the present moment. And so as you change those memories, and you change those past reflections in your mind, they will change the projection of the future, because everything is changing in the now moment. And so you can also use this to overcome any resistance you might have to changing the past or using revision by, instead of focusing on changing the past, just focusing on changing your memories, your perspective of the past. And when you change that, the past will change. So maybe when it comes down to what manifestation is and what the ultimate goal of manifestation is, maybe manifestation has never been and never will be about changing the world around us. Maybe manifestation is always and has only ever been about changing ourselves, because everything reflects from within.